There's no minutes, I told you that.
Okay, with the hour being after 7 with a full board, first item. We have no minutes today.
You don't.
Okay, next one.
That's okay.
That's okay. Kate, I still like you.
Be nice to Kate.
I like
Good
Kate.
name.
Thank you.
Did
Adams,
that get picked up? Did that get picked? You want to say, I like Kate? Just say, I like Kate.
this was the letter that Jack, that,
I like Kate.
Yes?
She's Kate.
Yeah.
that's to Jack.
Katie has done a great job.
Stop. Stop right now. Stop it.
I warn people not to come downtown Saturday. They're
I'm
gonna get-
leaving in a minute.
Please come to the parade.
Behave.
All right, we have a couple of items. 34 Peach Street, they're looking for
You too.
50, no, he said 52.
54.
Well,
Oh, okay.
all right. It's, do you want me to read it? It says Carmen and Richard Adams, 52 Peach Street.
We have it as 54 because it's a two-lot subdivision.
Yeah. It was 52 until we got started so late, then I went to 54.
All right, let's move.
Okay, they're looking for
Keep
bond
it going.
release, but they haven't done the work they're supposed to. Supposedly the town eventually is gonna pave Peach Street. He owned paving curb to curb for a period of like 50 or 60 feet, which he didn't do. So now he's gonna wait. He wants to wait until after it's done by the town. All right, what he says is he has a $1,400 bill to pay each year for the bond, which is a huge burden. Yeah, okay, but you're also got approval. You also owe this to the town. So you could either pave it, or you can, in my opinion, wait till they pave if the town does in fact pave the road at some time. If everybody was here before, that was supposed to have been done like 4 years ago, and it didn't make the, whatever year it was, financial expansion of water line, so now it just went on this year, so. What's anybody's pleasure, Paul?
I mean, I would just say that the town still the town owes.
No. He, per his subdivision approval, he owned where he tied in on Peach Street
Yep.
to mill it down and pave curb to curb for 50 lineal feet.
Okay.
All right? He's been waiting for the town to do it, so he doesn't have to do it.
Okay.
It's his obligation to do it.
But he has an obligation to do it. So,
So if he hasn't done it, then we still hold him accountable.
okay. Katie?
Yep, I say wait. If he
Okay.
wants to have it released before then, he can pave it, and if he doesn't want to pave
Yeah.
it, he can wait.
Okay. Phil?
So I'm sorry, so Carl had sent an email with that
Yep.
recommending that we release it, if I'm reading this right. Right,
Yep.
Carl?
I did.
Yeah.
Not an email, a memo.
Memo, yeah. So you don't have a problem with it?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Can I see this memo?
Well, the issue comes down to this, Phil. He owes this to the town. He signed the agreement, and he's never done it. Now he's trying to worm out of it and not pay anything. All right? This has been going on for over 4 years. My opinion is, we owe it to the town for this to be done. We have no idea whether Peach Street's gonna get paved next week, next year, or next 30 years. But we still got that piece that we're obligated to make sure gets done. And if you remember, this was supposed to have been done, what, 2 or 3 years ago, the water line, and they didn't have enough money.
Correct.
So this has been pushed and pushed.
However, it is funded now.
But that was the town water line.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he was waiting for the town to do the water line,
Evidently.
which is why he didn't do the paving.
Right, had he done it 2 years ago, this all came up, it would have been dug up this summer when the water main was replaced. So the curb-to-curb effort would have been for naught.
So maybe we should give him a little wiggle, a little,
It sets precedent in my eyes, and I don't think it's a precedent we want to set, first of all, and second of all, he could have done it, he was waiting. And I'm not criticizing when I say this, to save the money, then let them do it. So I don't feel it is a burden, because he was saving the money by letting the town do it.
Right.
It was his gamble to take by waiting, and the fact that it was, whether it's taken longer than expected or not, that's part of the gamble.
He's still making out, because if there's 46,000 bond outstanding, and he's only paying 1,400 a year,
Yes,
he's still gonna make out, because when they do it, he's not gonna have to have it done again.
Exactly.
He's just gonna have to wait it out.
Kyle, is that something that the town would give him? I mean, so like you hold him for this, and if he has to pay between now and that the work is actually done, 1,400, would the town reimburse him
No.
that last 1,400? The last 1,400?
No, we won't reimburse anybody
That's
for
his- So
anything
he's
like that,
purchased
but things are getting confused here. The 1,400 is the premium for his bond,
Premium, right, I get it.
okay?
Yeah.
So we don't pay premiums on, we pay premiums on our own bonds. We don't
Okay.
pay it on
somebody
subdivision
else's,
bonds
okay.
or work in the road bonds.
It's part of
All
his-
right, so I think in his memo, he mentions that he has to pay 1,400 to hold. The value remaining on the bond is approximately 46,000. That isn't all paving money. It's other things in the subdivision as well. I don't, offhand, I could go in here and look,
No, it's-
see what the paving was worth in the estimate. It wasn't a lot. So,
So there are still items left that he has not
No.
completed?
the only item that he has not completed is the paving in Peach Street. Everything else is
Okay.
done. As-built,
So
Form H,
46
bounds,
was at the
everything. There was a
minimum
punch
level.
list 4 years ago, but it's done.
Or he's
If
just
he
a
wants to
single
save
land
money.
owner of one house.
He built two
Yes.
houses.
He built two, but he owns one now.
Yeah.
He's a developer.
It was a project, it wasn't that he just built his house. And what I just said to Jack while you guys were talking is, if that's the case, he could ask for a bond reduction if he feels this cost is too much.
But
So,
he didn't.
But he did.
Okay, all right, then, yeah, my,
Okay, just so everybody understands the background, a few years ago when this came up, this has been bantering back and forth, and I'm not too happy, is he gave me a quote from Asphalt Engineering for $400 to do it. So he wanted the bond reduced to $400. I said, it's only $400, why don't you do it? Never heard a word again. So this is,
okay.
he's trying, here's the deal, you come to us, we give you approval, we set the bond, do your job. Don't come back to us. I'm not your father gonna give you some money, just do what it's supposed to do. Now, the other thing he could do is, if he wanted to do it, he could figure out what that's worth, write a check to the town and go home. Right?
He could, and we actually entertained that in April of 2022. All right, I did an estimate of what I figured what our share of the cost would be at that time. It wouldn't be all that much different, it'd be a little bit more now. If the board wanted to do that, we could do that. We would, I would be happy enough to also to implement that or make that happen if you wanted
Whatever
to
the
do it.
value of what he owns to mill and pave, he writes a check for that, then he goes home, and then we wait for you guys.
Okay, so I don't know that was proposed back in April of '22.
But he gave us that $400 thing from Asphalt.
I don't
Engineering.
recall exactly what happened.
Come, I don't forget that. $400?
No, I don't imagine you would, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I don't like to be hosed, and when someone says that, well, if it's only $400 and you pay $1,400, I would have done it 10 times over. So, but,
Is the board gonna entertain that option now, tonight?
well, if you want to discuss it with him, no, let him come back and see what he wants to do.
Okay, I will discuss it with him. I really like to close this out. It's a number of subdivisions that are lingering out there. This is a small item, and we funded it, and we'll take care of it. Actually, in the long run, we'll have a better job if we do it. We're gonna do that street one end to the other.
Yep.
All right, not have a little patch of 40 feet in the middle that was done this year and the rest of it next year or whatever it is. So hopefully we'll have a job that's done monolithically sometime next season.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I just want to clarify though, so if we don't do anything, the town's
Bless you.
gonna go pave the whole street, including
Yes.
his 40-foot
Yes,
patch. It'll all be done at one place.
yes,
If he went to do it now, it's gonna be dug up.
no.
It-
Well,
it won't-
so if he did it now, let's say he didn't want to keep on the bond, and he said, okay, I'll pave the part that was on the subdivision plan, then we'd have the option of we could mill over it and repave it, or we could pick up and skip it.
I see.
But he also can't do it now.
I think he could do it now.
Pipes haven't been in long enough.
That's, well,
You gotta wait
that's
that
a
year.
point.
So,
That's a good point. The pipes are just in. That's why we're not doing it now. That road, I think, has received its trench patch. It's pretty tough, all right, but we wait to get the freeze thaw out of it. So that's correct. You get a better job if we wait.
It's just, there seems to be some logic just to forego the bond and wait till the town does it, but.
That's in your opinion.
Yeah, let him offer something if he wants out, and whatever the value is, sure.
I'll take, the takeaway I have from this, Mr. Chairman, I will contact Mr. Adams and see if there's a price, see if he's willing to negotiate on the price. We'd be fine taking the money, and then we'll apply that to the paving next year.
Yep.
For the board's information, that may be a good solution, because we'll probably run into the same issue with the subdivision that's next door. There's 4 or 5 lots at
Yeah, but was he tying in out there?
New World Estates.
Was he-
Same thing, sewer and water tie-in, exactly the same thing.
I don't remember what the milling was. Only reason I remember Adams is because Maggie was here.
But we require it on the New World as well, same
Okay.
thing, curb to curb, just that's been tradition here, and I've tried to maintain it. I might forget it on some jobs, I even have it on some of the site plans. I guess,
You might
enough
wanna-
said.
Well, talk to them, because that will be your problem if you don't, right?
Well, yeah, it is our problem, and
No, but what I'm
ultimately.
saying is you can get it done now as opposed to later, and
Yeah, I think the thing I'd like to talk to him about is taking a contribution for the paving. If the board is then happy with that, then you can release his bond. And then it's our deal, but we're funded, we're gonna do it.
make a motion the council goes talks to Adams to see what they come up with.
Second.
In a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All
Would
right.
you make that motion again, please?
What, excuse me?
Make that motion again?
Made a motion of Carl talking to Mr. Adams.
Okay. I was getting papers.
Katie seconded.
Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. All right. Since we're into the other hearing, Phil, ask you, you got a lot for master plan and zoning, or do you want to wait till after the hearing?
I could do it now if you want.
Well, it's up to you, because I don't know what's up, so if you want to speak to it, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a couple of presentations. Let me just get my... So it might take 15 minutes, so I just want to make sure you're good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've been doing a lot of thinking about the master plan. This board has yet to approve it. I know we haven't gotten everything we need from our consultant, which I've been working on. But just a little history, the master plan was approved by the Master Plan Steering Committee on June 12th, 2023, so it's more than a year ago. I know that we've had repeated efforts to try to schedule a meeting with our consultant, Judy Barrett. That was in the second half of 2023 and in the first quarter of 2024. And it's been a stalemate of working out whether she's going to appear in person or by Zoom. And Mr. Chair, you wrote a letter on October 2nd, got a response back October 15th from her, and nothing really moved beyond that. In the meantime, we did collect all of the suggestions and updates that committee members had requested in the master plan. And I did send those to Judy on April 26th. And she has been looking through them and to get back to us, to me, with what she's going to do about all of them. Which ones she'll make or not make or what. Now, unfortunately, she has not gotten back to me on that. I've had several emails with her appealing to get the changes made. I know she had other reasons why she couldn't do it, but where we are right now, and I am in communication with her by email, so it's not that she's not going to do it, but it's not happening right now. And I did ask her to please get back to me before this meeting so I could give an update to the board. So I would like to make a motion for this board to approve the master plan as approved by the Master Plan Steering Committee, to approve the recommendation part of it. Because there were very little comments or very little disagreement with the recommendations. There's 102 recommendations in the plan. So I feel it's important that we get those out to the town boards so that they can actually apply them. So my suggestion, and this is my motion, that this board approve the master plan recommendations as in the master plan draft that was passed out last year. And again, it's 102 recommendations. There was one recommendation that I think that Katie recommended we add, and we can deal with that later. But So that is my motion that I would like to make on the floor, that this board approve the 102 recommendations in the master plan so that we can release it to the town.
All right. Anybody want to comment or anything?
What, a second first?
Hmm?
Second first?
Oh, someone will have to second, that's pile of comments, so. Start with comments and then we can go from there.
So,
Since you were on it, Kate, you
Do you
want
want to go, or do you?
yeah, I don't agree. So what's the reason that in 5 months she hasn't been able to get it done?
All I know is that she has been very busy and she
So
was
is
gonna
everybody, really.
get back, but I don't want to, I think right now, to me, the most important thing is that the committee did a lot of hard work, a lot of meetings. These are recommendations that are important to the town, and I don't want to see us not take action on something that we should be presenting to town boards that they can actually be applying them. And it doesn't make any sense for us to say, well, we're not going to approve anything until Judy comes forward.
It doesn't make any sense for us to pay for something that we don't get.
Well, we got 102 recommendations. We also
We
got a
didn't get a
report.
master plan, like, it's not done. It's
Well,
not done.
I didn't really have that many problems with the master plan that I know other people on the board did, and that's besides the point. But again, I just want to try to move the recommendations forward, because at the end of the day, that's what the master plan was doing, was making recommendations
But-
for the,
But Phil, can I just add one
Yeah.
thing? And again, kudos to the committee that, that did this, so there's no attack to the committee or the 12, you said 12 members? Yeah, so, I mean, to me, that they did, a lot of great work, but, if you hear of how this plan came together and the stops and the starts, and again, it was during a difficult time and so forth, I mean, you keep saying that these 102 recommendations. How do you know that those are the best recommendations? I mean, and I think this consultant, not knowing her personally, but doesn't seem to be. I mean, she can't even finish some of the work and the recommendations you're making now because she's too busy. I mean, to me, really, I mean, is this a real, true representation of what Walpole wants? I mean,
So
this is what makes it hard for me to say, this is, go with the recommendations. I don't know.
the recommendations were made by the committee.
All 102.
Discussed, all 102, just each one was discussed.
And I asked you the question before, did every town personnel, fire chiefs and police chiefs and everybody get interviewed? And did you have a record of it? And we still haven't ever been
So I
able
have
to-
not gotten the exact, we have I have the two reports that Judy put together, who they interviewed, and the meetings, because they did two sets of meetings, one with the town officials, and one with town boards, and one with town employees, if you will. So we have those two papers, and I asked her to put them in the report. But I think when we talk about the recommendations, there's two parts to it. One is that the steering committee met. I have the list of meetings, but we met like 27 times, 21 times, whatever it was, going over all these recommendations and voting on them and discussing them. So that is the output of the committee. The committee was made up of representatives from the different town boards and also the different areas of concentration of interest, if you will. So the board itself was representative. So when I did present the report to this board, nobody really had any problems with any of the recommendations. I asked several times, does anybody have a question about the recommendations? And no one on this board had any questions at all. So I'm going that this board was good with the recommendations. And in fact, none of when you look through the comments that the board made on things they wanted to change, there wasn't really anything in the recommendation part, which is, again, the recommendations are really the thing that the town's going to take and use to go forward. And the whole reason for the master plan is to set a blueprint for future decisions. So doing a master plan and then not doing anything for 1 or 2 years makes no sense. Because why, as you said, we've invested $139,500, I think, is what we paid the consultant. So you know, we could say, well, we're not gonna go forward with it because we don't have, you know, she hasn't met with us, but on the other hand, when you really look at it, the value to the town is the recommendations.
So what you're saying, Phil, is you want us to vote this so it can go out, which will never come back again because it was failed by our consultant that we paid. That's basically what you're saying.
I would just put out the recommendations.
No, but you want us to cover for her and her not doing her job.
Well, I would say it a different way, Jack.
What other way is it? Did she finish
No,
the
no,
job?
please let
Did she
me,
finish?
please let me answer.
Okay.
What I would say is, I want to do this because it has nothing to do with her. It's all, I feel, that these are recommendations that the town should know about,
Phil,
town
you-
boards.
Phil, all you-
And, no, wait, let me finish. The town should, these are recommendations that were important, that the committee felt the town should use as we go forward in making major decisions, which is the purpose of the master plan. And I feel very comfortable that those were good recommendations, and I hate to see them held up because we are having this issue. And I'm not saying that, it's unfortunate what happened, but I can't go change everything. Your letter didn't change anything, Jack, either. So I'm looking to, let's
So-
capture the value of what, the work we did and get these
If
recommendations
these
out.
recommendations were so wonderful and they're the key to the world, then why didn't the master plan just be recommendations?
Because the state guidelines for writing a master plan.
Stop. Can I just interrupt you, and I am
No, but
sorry to
just finish this
interrupt.
first. But there's a state guideline for writing the master plan, so we followed that.
Right, so we're gonna take one piece. It's like asking a kid to do a book report and the kid turns in one piece of it, one part of it. It's not a complete plan unless it's all together. So we're gonna represent this to people in the town as, they will assume that's our master plan, and it's not a complete plan. Just as you said, the state has guidelines. This is one piece of the guidelines. I do not feel we should piecemeal it. It's a master plan. It's not recommendations only. So I don't think, I respect your request, but I don't agree with it.
Well, from a logistics standpoint, so you're just gonna put the book out the way it is now?
No. I would only put out the recommendations.
So it goes back to what I said,
Yeah.
that we don't have a master plan, it doesn't go by the state guidelines. So
But-
what do we have?
We're never gonna get one if we do a
Well, we have
piece.
recommendations from the master plan that the planning board has given their approval to, which gives it authority to go out to the town. And we would say that we need to get the rest of it out, but in order to.
So you're gonna have a solution, but you're not gonna even know what the problem is, the way you wanna do it. You're gonna have recommendations out there, but how did they get there? We don't know. That's why you have the front end, right?
Yeah, no, and there's no doubt about it, but I'm trying to make the best of a bad situation, and I'm trying to salvage, and I'm working hard on trying to get the comments back from Judy.
Okay, since we didn't hire her to sign the contract, what does the people who did that have to say about her not fulfilling her?
So, Jack, I haven't been you're talking about going to the select board.
Yeah.
I could go to the select board and report.
I said that a long time ago. We have no skin in the game. We have no teeth. We didn't hire her.
Yeah, Phil, Phil, just 1 second, sir. Again, you come here and you're kind of coming on us as a planning board to say how we haven't okayed this, but I have seen no other actions or other avenues that you've entertained. Going to the select board and raising your comments to them, talking to another consultant and saying what type of work this particular consultant that we hired did. I mean, there's no recommendations. I mean, it's just, you're pleading with us just to say, hey, listen, we spent all of this time, please, can we get these 102 comments out in the street? When clearly, you have a board that cannot back that. I mean, you have not made any other efforts other than pleading with us. I mean,
I
I
don't
think our comments have already been
I
clear.
would say that
What?
Jack took it on, at the committee meeting, Jack made the motion that he would take on communicating with Judy and getting her to follow through with it at the time. That goes back, many months ago. So she wrote the letter, she wrote a response, and then I don't believe we ever wrote a response back to her. That's where it's sat. As far as I do think the report is good as it is, first of all. Sure, there was a lot of things that might have been missed, but I don't think any of them are all that important at the end, even though it would have been good to have done them. and again, I don't mean to be saying that things that people brought up weren't important, but I think in the scale of what the report did, I think the report was excellent. I think it covered a lot of things. It's unfortunate that for some reason she went away for a while, and it was hard to get her attention back, but we did. So there was a set of changes that we submitted that she made, and I think as a result of those changes, I'm actually, and I know most members of the board don't agree with me on that, but I would be good putting the report out as it is, and getting the recommendations out. The big issue at the time was getting whether she was going to meet with us by Zoom or she was going to meet with us in person. And I was hoping this board would compromise and meet with her on Zoom just to move it forward. And that proved to be something this board did not want to do. And she did not want to do. So we got into a stalemate. And I would have held up, this was so important, that I would have said, let's meet by Zoom. It can be effective. We've done a lot of meetings by Zoom.
No.
So that would have been that was my intent, or my advocacy all the way through
Well,
this.
it's very simple. It didn't come down to a meeting, whether it's Zoom or in person, because she hasn't done what she was supposed to put in there. So why would we even meet?
Well, wait, but Jack, she did. There were two levels of changes. So all the ones, there was a time she went away, and there were a lot of things that the steering committee found that were problems. Those were sent to her, and she did make all of them.
Yeah,
And-
I
and
understand
there
the
was
steering committee. It's this
Yeah.
committee here.
So then this board had a lot of changes,
Yeah.
and some which I felt
Okay,
that.
whether you feel it or not, this is what the board voted on, sent to her, and she hasn't implemented one of those. That's what I'm hearing, right?
As far as I know,
No, so,
I haven't gotten anything back.
okay, so that tells me she ain't gonna do
That tells
nothing.
you, that tells you
But
she
like I said, I
hasn't.
do believe it's a little bit unusual for a planning board to get down to that low level of changes to a master plan. You know,
It
usually-
is? Gee, I've
That-
done
that's
3
my-
of these, Phil. No, that's not. When you have pictures, you don't identify where it is. When you say we interviewed people, you don't say who they are. That isn't down
No,
low.
and those should have been there.
And when you have
But there was
some
almost
town
100.
officials or some developers complain about the way it takes so long without them being named or what's specific, that really got my,
Well, I think that was the
I don't
comment they
think we need
heard.
to rehash everything
Yes, we
we've
do.
already gone through.
I just, yeah.
I
I'm
think,
just go
is
to
there a
vote.
second?
no.
I mean,
Okay, put a second for, we'll have discussion and put it to a vote. You seconded there?
no, I'm not second. Okay,
You want to move it on, but you won't second, okay. John, I'll second it. All right, so we have discussion. Okay, we had the discussion. Any further discussion on this? So, all those in favor of letting it go out, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
no.
No. So, okay.
Thank
Now,
you.
Next one is,
And now, the next one is the zoning bylaw review committee, the steering committee, of which John and I are both members. And I'm going to start off, John, if you don't mind.
Nope.
So we've been meeting monthly since July, and I want to thank Patrick Desane, who's been coordinating and leading us on this. It's a very important effort. The members are Ed Fortsberg, Sarah Khatib, Tyler Church, and then John and myself representing the planning board. The rewrite, and then also on the committee as ad hoc members are Patrick and then Jim Crowley, from obviously our building
before you
commissioner.
do a deep dive, there's nothing on the website about the zoning rewrite committee, who's on it, when they meet or anything. I've been looking, I don't see
Okay,
nothing. So you need to get it on there, Phil, whoever's in charge. I don't know if you're the chairman, but someone's gonna put it on.
I'm not the chairman, but I would.
Because
I'm
it
sure
should be
that-
there, because if you're looking for zoning rewrite, it's not listed
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah, no, and it
And it
probably
doesn't
should
even
be.
say, yeah, it doesn't even say who's on it,
Yeah,
so.
and that's why, so I want to make sure that this board knows, which is.
Yeah,
why
no, I
wanted to
understand,
put
but whoever's in charge of getting it on
Yeah.
there, just to make sure you get it on there.
Okay. So the rewrite was funded through a grant from the Housing Choice Grant Program, and I want to thank, I think Patrick was the one who initiated that request. And the town has retained KP Law in doing an audit of our town bylaws. So our town bylaws, have been updated, over the years, piecemeal, and as anyone who looks at them knows that there's a lot of places that are either ambiguous, or things are sometimes contradictory, or things just not well organized to find something. So the reason for the audit is to come up with recommendations on how the bylaws could be updated. First, for clarity and organization. Second, to make sure that
Okay,
it's
to clarify something, you're
Yeah.
talking town bylaws, you're really talking.
Oh, the zoning bylaws,
bylaws.
zoning bylaws, thank you, John, sorry, zoning bylaws, be very clear about that, excuse me on that. I'm so used to talking about the zoning bylaws I just mentioned, yeah, it's the zoning bylaws. So first two, so they're gonna doing an audit for clarity and organization. Second, to make sure that it conforms to current Mass state law. And then third, areas that, just should be maybe improved in various ways. So the board has gone through, and we have a list, a fairly lengthy memo from our legal counsel, and the Carolyn, attorney Carolyn Murray is our counsel from KP Law, who is working with us on this, and she has gone through, wrote a very lengthy memo with suggestions on changes, and the committee has gone through, and we categorized them into 3 categories. One is the easy ones that are, either typos or just something that makes sense to change a section, or something, things that don't require a lot of analysis or looking at. And then we have 3, which is the more complicated ones on the high end, where it might require rewriting something, is going to require a lot more conversation. There's a lot of recommendations on changing, for example, the usage table, a lot of organizational things. So those are the 3s. And then in between are the 2s that they're kind of, they're going to take some discussion, but not as much as a major rewrite or a lot of decision making on how we handle something. What the committee has decided is that we're not going to do one huge package of changes to the bylaws. So it'll be done in packages as separate articles over probably multiple town meetings, and it'll be done logically for, based on what the sections are. And some of these are very, very obvious, and others, they're things that, when you read our bylaws, they may be a little more convoluted or more difficult to understand. So for example, there's some places where she recommends we take out some language because it's really set by state code, and it doesn't, you don't want to have things in 2 places, because if the state law changes, we would have to update our bylaws. And then we have other things like moving the definitions to the end. So there's a lot of things that are logical. So right now, there's a couple of things before us. One is that the FEMA has updated their flood hazard data, and the state requires all towns to update our floodplain management regulations to reflect the new changes from FEMA. It's also from FIRM, the Flood Insurance Resource Management and Flood Insurance, I forget what the FIS was, but
Flood insurance study.
study. So we have to respond to.
Flood insurance rate map and flood insurance study, and we do not yet have revised maps,
And we don't agree.
but they're coming.
Wasn't that done a few years ago? I believe it was, when Maggie was here.
Well, yeah, a few years ago, I think it's the latest revision, which was 12. I think our map's at 12.
2012, okay.
So we're required to update it, and the state gives us a model language for updating it. So again, our attorney is working on that.
That's in the zoning book? FEMA stuff?
Section of
That's,
floodplain.
Yeah, flood,
That's section 11. 11.
Yeah, but it should just be,
and I could call upon either Jim or,
well, you wouldn't want to put the date, just say the most current.
Yeah.
yeah.
Why?
I'm not sure. Actually, you might want to call on Patrick and Jim to supplement this.
Well, we're not going to
Patrick
sit here and
can
hash
supplement.
out each one. We're just Phil's giving us the overview.
Yeah, anyway, go
So
on.
that's one of the major things
Sorry.
we're working on, and we have a draft from our attorney. And then the second one is with the new state housing law, we have to update it for the ADUs. So we need to make changes in our bylaws that conform to the making ADUs by right in all districts. So that's another major section that she's given us a draft for, that we're working on it. And we've made some other recommendations. I won't go through them, but just know that there's a lot of things in flux. And the key thing here is that we will look to try to get these out over time and put them in packages so that they're, you know, logical groupings. And John, I don't know if you want to add anything?
No, well, based on the information we got from KP Law's contact, it's basically, a lot of it is, we in our bylaws, in a lot of cases, reference the state law. And we, in a lot of cases, we spell out the state law. So every time state law changes, we have to go back in and change it. So a lot of cases they recommended, don't necessarily put in the state law, but just put in the reference to that particular state law so that you don't have to constantly update something. Some of it's like common sense type things. We've looked at the definitions, and having it at the back of the book doesn't make a lot of sense. You want it up front.
On the front,
where you
yeah,
can
so-
see it before, someplace where it's all is, and we realize we're going to have to go through the bylaws and pick up certain things that like might be identified within the bylaws and not really spelled out in the definitions themselves. But that's something that we'll have, it's like an ending thing. We do that after we've figured out all the little things. And we have realized we have to go through it all and make sure all the cross-checks match, all the cross-references are gonna be looked at, so that when one thing changes, we reference everything else that changes with it.
And again, I want to thank Patrick and Jim as you know, and Lauren also, who's been, you know,
Yeah.
working on this, and of course the other committee members.
What is, a question, how are you gonna present phase one?
We're going to,
Is that
we
okay?
realize that, well, the changes we reference are going to be complex in as overhaul. So we're gonna probably break it down into several
Yeah,
different.
That's what Phil said, but what we
Yeah,
say,
we're-
how are you gonna do phase one?
We're going to have some public hearings and things.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
How are you gonna submit it to town meeting? I'll be right up front. Copeland Page doesn't know how town meeting works or any of this stuff. I've had more battles with them. What I'm saying is, if you present a book,
No, we
No,
realize
it's gonna
that
be-
that's not
It's
going
going
to
to be
work.
pieces that people, you know,
you're
is
gonna do
reasonable.
item by item by item then?
No.
Well,
Well,
in
see,
some
it's-
cases, we're gonna do maybe a couple of articles together.
Yeah, but what happens, John, as you know, if people don't like something, they don't like
They don't
that.
like
Boom,
everything.
the whole book flies.
Right. So
That's
we're
why I'm
gonna-
asking, what's your approach?
It's gonna be-
One by
Item-
one by one?
It's going to be articles
We're gonna-
and grouping things together, hopefully that are they're in a
Okay.
collection of related things, and hopefully they're not so controversial that they're easy to get through, because they're the fixing typos in language.
My-
But you're right,
Doing
no,
this
it
for
could be,
years, you want it split up.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because one little thing, the whole thing goes.
We don't want
boom.
one thing to stop everything.
No, and that's
We
good
realize
advice.
that.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Now,
Yeah.
the next two things are gonna be harder, but still, those are gonna have to be item by item by item. But the first one, you wanna, you don't wanna have
Give them
something.
something they can get used to, so that if, when we do get to the more complex ones, they'll have an idea that we're looking at each one separately and how they interrelate with each other.
Do they wanna renumber these?
There may be some
Overall-
renumbering, but we were trying to keep the numbers somewhat the same, yeah.
We're trying to keep the
Just-
general section numbers same, but a lot of cases it's 1-1-2-J. We want to keep a consistent 1-J-1-G pattern, so that number letter, so we can be consistent throughout the,
The other recommendation would be, is you guys would at least leave a breadcrumb trail, how you got there. Because what will happen is, you get something that was approved 10 years ago, and someone's gonna wanna know where the breadcrumbs went to, back to the old one. That comes up a lot.
going back into
So the-
the
Yeah, to
old-
find out where it originally started. So say you did something 10 years ago, and now, that ain't what's there.
Yeah.
Just how you got to there. So if someone wanted to reference it, if there's a new section or different section or something, how? I don't.
Are you thinking going back to how, the original articles that changed some of the bylaws?
No, what you, if you change something,
It'll be a red line copy.
But they're gonna wanna know how it, yeah, you want something separate so the attorney could
So
pick
you
it
can
up or
see
someone.
this and see where the changes are.
Yeah, you're gonna have the new
Yeah.
ones and the old ones, but how do we get there? That's,
Right.
There will be a
like
red
the
line
yes,
strikeouts,
that's
the
what,
red line,
that's what
yeah.
definitely you want.
Right now, it's in a Word document, and you can turn on, in review, you can turn on what changes you want to see.
Yeah.
Whether you want to see all the changes or just certain
And
changes.
how- yeah, how you
and
got
we got
there.
there. Yeah, so
That's-
so the red line is very important, otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyone else have any questions, comments? You guys all set?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure the board
Yeah, just to
members
keep
know
the
what's
board
going on,
updated,
and
yeah.
please, if you do have questions, you should ask, just contact John or myself.
Thank you.
And whoever else is on the board or
Yeah.
committee.
Oh, so it was, yeah. So I mentioned who it
Wasn't there someone from
was.
zoning?
Yeah, I know you did, Phil, but if you go on the website,
Yeah, so that would be
It's
a
who?
a question that we can take up at the next committee meeting,
yeah, you need to put, yeah.
having something on the web.
Yeah, you need to be able to post the agendas, I haven't seen, those are,
They're posted on the community development page, but it does need to stay on the website.
yeah. You need something listed somewhere that you can go to.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, thank you.
all right, so, all right, next one up is Union Square. All right. Gonna go popcorn and sit in the audience.
Don't throw popcorn.
Takes the first grouping, and everybody takes a grouping.
No. I see what you're saying. Take it.
It's in packets.
This is for John. This is for John.
John, this is for you.
Oh, that's right, packages.
So this is,
That's largely,
this is for Jack, I guess.
I don't think he can get this. Kate, there was an extra because you made one for Jack.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Petrosi. Let's see. Get myself organized. Those, okay. Okay, the hour being after 7:10. We have a petition. Notice is hereby given that the Walpole Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 3rd at 7:10 PM in the main meeting room, Town Hall, 135 School Street, Walpole, Mass., on a site plan application, repetitive petition, from Wall Street Development, Post Office Box 272, Westwood, Mass., case number PB 2024-12, with respect to property located at 7 Brook Lane and off Burns Ave. Said property is shown on Assessors Map 20, parcels 119, 136, 137, 115, zoning district GR. The applicant is seeking site plan review under Section 13 of the zoning bylaws to allow the proposed development entitled Union Square Village, which calls for the construction of 15 detached single-family condominium homes of, wording's not quite, 3.6 plus or minus acres, more or less, including installation of access drives, utilities, and related stormwater management. And the site grading as shown on a plan set entitled Special Permit and Site Development Plan, Union Square Village, Walpole, Mass. Latest revision, July 31st, 2024, prepared by GLM Engineering Consultants, Inc., 19 Exchange Street, Holliston, Mass., as may be amended. Okay. Mr. Petrosi.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lou Petrosi, Wall Street Development. As the public notice was read, This is a reapplication of a previous submitted site plan review application. As you may recall, the board issued a decision denying the site plan review a few months back, and in that denial, they cited several reasons for its denial and missing information that was the board was looking for. In this reapplication, I believe we've submitted the information, including the zoning board special permit decision, the Conservation Commission land disturbance permit, local bylaw order of conditions, amended superseding order of conditions, site development plan that was revised through July 31st, 2024. We also submitted a zoning opinion from the building inspector, traffic circulation memo, landscape plan, lighting plan, building elevations, stormwater management report, and certified list of abutters, which all of these documents were requested by the board at its the last time we got together. So not much has changed on the plan. I think there was a little bit of confusion at the last time we got together because there were several plans going back and forth between the boards. And so now we're all on the same page with the July 31st plan. As I mentioned, Conservation Commission has approved that plan. The zoning board has approved the special permit, so we're here just for your comments.
Okay.
Sorry?
Carl, did you receive a copy of the stormwater management plan? 'Cause I don't see anything in my paperwork.
I don't believe I did with this application.
It was previously reviewed April 12th. It was with the original application, so you've had that, and it's been reviewed.
There should be 11 here, John.
Yeah, but there's nothing in it. If you look in there, there is nothing.
Did you say it up front?
I missed a meeting.
Traffic. Traffic. I'm assuming I'm looking for something that's several pages long, right? Typically?
The stormwater report?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I don't have it with me, but
Hundreds of
it's,
pages.
yeah, it's probably 70 or 80 anyway.
Usually when we submit a stormwater report, we just submit 2 copies. One that goes to the town engineer, one goes in the file, but
So we have it.
I don't see
You
it,
have
that's the issue. That's probably just an oversight, but I don't see a copy of it.
It came in the
well,
packet.
We do have? No, is it in there, though? I looked through that.
Oh,
I didn't see it in there.
But, Kate, you never distribute the stormwaters.
No,
You-
I just
it would
wanted to
go-
make sure
It would
that
go to
we
me in general.
had in fact got something.
Clearly, yes, and we had reviewed this with Conservation even at the time of the last hearing. As Mr. Petrosi indicated, I reviewed to you on a plan that I'd already seen two versions ahead, including the stormwater.
So
In
you're
a nutshell, we're
comfortable with
okay,
that?
we're fine with the stormwater.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have some board replies. Memo dated September 4th, 2024, from Officer Luke Powlin, Police Department. The attached plans have been reviewed for any impact on public safety and quality of life. Walpole Police Department does not have any public safety concerns in relationship to traffic, in this case, filed with the Town of Walpole Planning Board. From the Fire Department, Alan Hover, Deputy Chief. Walpole Fire Department has reviewed the site plan approvals and special permit for the above address and provides the following comments. The applicant has addressed all our previous comments. We have no further comments at this time. Let's see what else we got. We have from engineering. Wish to address this, Carl?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair. We delivered a memorandum to the board September 27th, 2024. There are relatively few items on there. There are actually two plan comments. One is to note on the cover sheet that the plans are being filed under Section 13, which is a site plan review or site plan approval. The other is to put a detail for a light pole and base on the plans. There are two other comments, and they're related. That's number one. I note that the application was for 150, the planning board site plan application lists 157,373 square feet. And then I note that the actual work presented on the plan is greater by approximately 2,000 square feet. And I note in that comment one that the current plans don't agree with the prior A&R by the engineer of record, GLM Engineering. That is also echoed in comment 5 under the existing conditions. So basically, I'm indicating that on both sheets. That's it. All the rest of the items, there were some changes on this plan that were, with drainage, putting in drainage galleys and a few minor revisions to the utility arrangement on the plans, but we're all set with those items. So those are the only comments that remain.
Okay. We also have a memo from Patrick Duchesne, Director of Community and Economic Development, regarding the site plan in Section 5J of the zoning bylaws, which was adopted in the past spring town meeting. Mr. Duchesne, would you like to speak to this?
I didn't get my copy.
Yep, so the memo that was before you had to do with the fact that this is probably the first project that's before the board that is complies with Section 5J of the zoning bylaws dealing with the inclusionary housing requirement. So my note in there is that because the development is not under subdivision control law, control law, thank you, it meets the applicability standards of Section 5J, requiring that it would need to have no more than 2 affordable units. So this, I don't know if you want me to go through the whole memo in verbatim, but essentially there's requirements that are needed prior to the certificate of occupancy that need to be submitted on behalf of the to the board, but as well as through the building commissioner before a CO can be issued for units. This has to do with regulatory and monitoring agreement, as well as a fair housing market and resident selection plan. All these are kind of standard material that would be similar with a 40B project, but they function as what's called a local action unit. So towns that either have an inclusionary zoning bylaw or inclusionary housing requirements, such as what this is, will look to have those units captured on a town's subsidized housing inventory. So that's why the language of the bylaw is written the way it is, and why that certain information would be needed. That way, if those units are to be affordable, they're affordable from the state standards to be included on this on the SHI. Provided it to the board. Provided it to the board. I don't know what the board usually send it to.
I didn't hear what he said.
Mr. Petruzzi is asking why he wasn't copied on Patrick's letter dated September 24th.
You can have it tonight, but I can't release it until tonight. Mr. DeShanes can give it to you if he wished earlier, but
Okay, we also have submitted to the board some plans and comments from the butter, Mr. Conroy. He includes a plan of his 2 lots which abut Mr. Petrossi's project, or one of which does. Comments regarding paper streets and their effect. And what else was it? One other thing, I think. Yeah, okay. So, we have that is part of mine, that is part of hers. That is part of hers. Okay. A few preliminary remarks. As I mentioned when you were before us back in June, you've applied for the site plan, but you've not applied for the special permit for the common driveway. I have reviewed Mr. Crowley's comments. I disagree with them completely. And anyone looking at the bylaw for zoning driveway will, I believe, interpret it as I interpret it correctly.
You're disagreeing with our
Oh, yes.
building commissioner?
So thank you, Jim Crowley, Building Commissioner. I wrote another memo I can give to the board just to clarify
You did?
more
is.
on it. Just to give you some background on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just to go through it briefly, the first part is how the town looks under zoning is definition of a street, which is a way, boundaries, layout, construction, and use of a passage or travel of vehicles, usually including a sidewalk for pedestrian use, otherwise referred to as an avenue, boulevard, court, driveway, lane, road, roadway, or other private way or public way. In our definitions, in our own thing of common driveway, the zoning bylaw defines a common drive and outlines it in its purpose and applicability as follows. The purpose is a common drive is intended to provide access to more than one residence or business through a shared access point to reduce the number of individual driveways and enhance public safety, among other reasons. The applicability is a common driveway provides access to no more than 3 lots or dwelling units. It requires a special permit, obviously, from the planning board, and it must be submitted within an easement, or it may be situated within an easement or a shared access point from the existing street. The characteristics of the proposed road is the number of units shared. In this case, it's going to be 15 single-family homes, obviously exceeds 3, exceeding obviously in the maximum lots of 3 dwelling units of the common driveway. The width and structure, this road is 26 foot wide, designed to accommodate 2-way traffic, and is more characteristic of a public street rather than a common driveway. Also, under individual driveways, each house has its own individual driveway connecting to the main road, allowing direct access to garages. This is unlike common driveways, which is a shared of a single access point. The intent use of this road is constructed for vehicle passage and connects directly to Brook Lane, functioning as a typical street. Additional points that we put in, the connective restrictions, no common driveway
shall be connected or attached to any other driveway, nor extend without prior approval of, obviously, the planning board, and proposed roads do not share these limitations as there serves multiple individual homes, or individual driveways, my apologies. The purpose and intent use, unlike common driveways which are designed for shared access to a limited number of lots, the proposed road shares as a primary access route to 15 single-family homes, each with its own direct driveway and connection. Based on this definition and characteristic outlined in the subdivision rules and regulations as well as the zoning bylaws, the opinion is that it proposed the road is classified as a street, not a common driveway, and therefore has no specialized permit, is also consistent as past, is in consistency with past practices. Also, this common driveways fall under zoning bylaws, which is enforced by the zoning enforcement, which is the building department. This board has no right or authority to enforce common driveways. One of the neighbours or applicants can appeal my decision to the zoning board, but this board has no authority to dictate if he needs a special permit or not. It's not in your site plan approval. It
Yes,
comes
it
through
is.
zoning enforcement. You do not have the right. The neighbours can appeal it if they so choose and appeal my decision to the zoning board. That is the only way a common driveway can be enforced here. And again, it doesn't meet the criteria of a common driveway. And in multiple other cases, we've already done this in this town. It's never triggered it either. So it's the standing of what a common driveway is.
Okay, questions? There's a access point from Brook Lane, which goes through the properties and accesses all the houses. Two things it could be, a street or a driveway. Which is it?
It's a street.
If it's a street, it's a separate lot of land. It has to be allocated as a separate square footage, and it has to be part of a subdivision. This is not a subdivision. Mr. Petrosi has come through us with 6C4A through the zoning board. It's a single lot of land. So it isn't a subdivision.
No,
Therefore, it must be a driveway.
no, sir.
Yes. It can be one or the other. It cannot be anything but. The bylaws reference 3 units because that should have been, we thought that we'll never have more than 3 units sharing a driveway because they never figured on a 64A with 15 units. Now, a common driveway is the only logical way that it can be accomplished. It has a maximum of 3 units. Beyond that, you would have to request a waiver. So, because there is no other option really, it's reasonable for him to apply for a special permit for a common driveway and ask for a waiver because it's based on more than 3 units. And that would then be discussed by the planning board and approved, most likelihood, I would think.
So this road could be accepted as a private way or it could be accepted as a public way. Again, that's not what a common driveway is. A common
Correct.
driveway is
It
a
isn't.
road that leads to an individual home that's crossed by certain people. This is a road that leads to multiple driveways. It doesn't
Yes,
meet the
and that's
criteria.
how it's spelled out in the bylaws.
And again, this board does not have the right or the authority to ask for a common driveway or ask for the special permit.
Special
It does
permits
have the
for
right to come
common
in front of
driveways
you.
are issued by the planning board.
Yes, in front of the planning board, not dictated if they get here. It's come through zoning, so you don't have the
No.
authority. If one of the neighbours want to appeal my decision, then they have the right to take me to the zoning board and I have to do an administrative appeal. This board does not have the right to deny or request a special permit. It's that simple.
I disagree.
And that's your right, sir, but you don't have the authority to enforce it.
Thank
If you can
for
show
this.
me in your site plan where it says you have the authority to enforce a common driveway, please show me, because under section 13, it does not.
So John, it says very clear, no more, it's 2 lots, not houses. So this is 1 lot.
There are
right?
2 options on common driveways. One is to allow access to multiple lots from one access point on a road. The other is to access multiple units on one lot. Those are the 2 options of how a common driveway works.
Just so you understand.
I feel the building commissioner, he is our expert on zoning issues.
Excuse me.
I think he's made.
No, it's not listed. There's a definition. I disagree with your interpretation, and I disagree with your claim that I have no authority to request it. But that's your
Sure,
opinion.
anybody can disagree with me, that's allowed, but as enforcement, the board, unfortunately, this board does not have any right to enforce it. And again, and part of the connection of a common driveway, just another point that the common driveway says is no common driveway shall be connected or attached to other driveways. So this is
It
not a
isn't.
common driveway because there's 15 driveways that lead directly to a
Common
garage.
driveway is spelled out that it's common up until a point where it branches off to the individual units.
Yes, and the intent of when this was brought in was very similar to a house that was done last year on North Street. The intent is in a residential area that you don't have 3 driveways coming out, or in multiple commercial areas, you don't have a ton of driveways coming out and ruining the road, ruining the view.
I
So the
understand that,
intent
yes.
is to bring a driveway to up to 3 units, and that is it. And that's where common driveway comes in. This has a full 26-foot wide street with a turnaround cul-de-sac that leads to different driveways. Our own zoning says that no common driveway shall be connected or attached to any other driveway.
Right.
We have 15 driveways connected to this
So,
driveway,
in that case,
which means
we
it
should
doesn't
have,
meet the criteria.
zoning should have denied it and said you can only have 3 houses on a common driveway.
No, because
Yes.
now you're fixating it on one specific part of
No,
zoning.
that's what you're fixating on.
And again, that's fine. And again, any of the neighbours can appeal. They can appeal every single permit we issue on any project. That's your right. But what I'm saying is, you cannot deny a project or you cannot enforce something that you don't have the authority to enforce. And this board does not have that authority. It's very similar to when Mr. Petrosi appealed this board to the zoning board. The zoning board did not have the authority to overrule ye. They did not.
Right.
And we said that to them, and they agreed. There's nothing in section 13 that says ye have the right to enforce a common driveway. So you have not the right to enforce a common driveway, which means you can't enforce it.
I think we should move on, is what I.
Yes, very well. I recall at last June's meeting that it was requested by an abutter that this rectangular section at the end of the cul-de-sac was to be identified. And I believe Robert said, yeah, that's no problem, we'll do it. I don't see it identified.
It's on the plan.
Hmm?
It's on the plan.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's identified on the plan.
I'm looking at the plan. It's not identified.
Look at page 2 on the existing conditions, all the parcels are identified.
Okay, it's identified as a private way. It's not a private way, it's a piece of property.
It's identified.
It would be a good idea to put it on page 3 also, then. That's the layout. Okay. Phil, turn it over to you for comments.
I do have a couple. First of all, it looks like a lot of the issues that were raised at the first hearing of this got resolved, which is what my reading of it. It looks like the issues that were, most of the issues raised in the first hearing, you know, the first plan that was presented to us were resolved. The, you know, the
I believe so.
common driveway, the buffer, those were
We've submitted all the information that you had,
requested.
reasons that you wanted them included in the last hearing, so we've submitted that information.
The lighting plan, landscape plan, and so on. So the question that Carl brought up in the square footage on the lot, it'd be lot 2, lot 136 on sheet 2. So that does not include the square footage of the one half of the.
No, it does.
It does.
So if you look at page 2,
Yeah.
at the bottom, total area of the project, the 159, that includes the 2,000 square feet. It was 157 in the application, is what Carl was saying. Not on the plan, he was reading it from the GIS application, I believe.
Yes.
So it's just a.
So it is included,
It
okay.
wasn't revised on the GIS application, but in the plan, it's revised, and it's part of
So then the
the
total,
total area.
through you, Mr. Acting Chair, then the total area is the upland of 156, 164, plus the wetland 1209, whatever that adds up to be.
Right. So the
That
total
still
area is
sounds like 100,
159.
that still sounds like 157.
Well, these might be off a little, the wetland and upland, but the total area is the
Okay, the
159.
159, okay.
3,700.
Okay.
So you're good, Carl, with that?
Well,
The total area was 157.
yes.
And that's not included in the lot 136 size. That would be it.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parcels that make up the property,
And one of them is
the 2,000 square feet.
2,000, okay, square feet, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Um,
If you count
And what is the radius of the cul-de-sac? The one, you know, the cul-de-sac at the end of the, you know, that goes up to Burns Avenue. The diameter?
Either one.
82 feet.
82, okay. I know, I think it's 88 feet is our guideline, but have you,
We've done, the fire chief has reviewed this. We did a SWIP path, the traffic consultant
and they're good
prepared
with
it,
it.
and he was very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think you have a letter saying he's okay with the plan.
okay. And then, I just had a question, did you, I know on the cul-de-sac, it goes on the paper street. Hatfield
Correct.
Street. Did you, is it possible to move the cul-de-sac totally on lot 136?
Not without removing a unit.
Okay, yeah, that, just in case that becomes something that, and then the only other question I had was on the snow storage and garbage. So garbage collection would be.
Private pickup,
Private pickup at each house?
each house.
It wouldn't, okay, so no dumpsters.
No dumpsters, individual pickup at each house,
Yeah, and then
private contract.
for snow storage, do you anticipate that there'd ever be a situation where it won't fit on the property?
I mean, lately, no. In the
Nothing.
last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I mean, you never know. And if
I mean,
it did,
sometimes
they'd
we-
have to haul it out.
Yeah, sometimes we require to have a note that if
If, you could put that in the association agreement, they can put a thing in there about snow storage. If it
Okay, that would
exceeds
be-
it,
that
they
would be
can
good to-
remove
yeah,
it.
for the association.
There will be there's an
There's gonna be
association.
an association,
Right.
yeah. I think I have a couple more questions, but I want to come back to it as we
Okay.
maybe discuss further. I know there's a lot of issues or questions that have come up over the paper street, and, you know, I'm not sure, you know, that, you know, you're saying you have the right to use that land, and I'm not sure we're looking to get into that, so I'll end my questions here for now.
Kate?
So I think that's my biggest question, is the right to that land. And I also want to point out, so I was not present the night this vote was taken and it was denied.
You
And
weren't
I
here?
didn't mullin. So if I become a deciding vote, I will not be able to vote.
It's a totally new project.
This is a new application.
I just asked the chairman that too, even though he's not present. I asked him as a hypothetical, not in pertaining to this. I think I would want to get an opinion on that before I just assume my vote's okay. So,
Why
if
would
I'm-
you-
it's
this
only
is a
if I'm the
brand-new
deciding vote.
application.
It is a new application though, right?
Yeah, it's a brand-new application.
Then why does it say repetitive? And we're going back to, I'm uncomfortable with it, but I'll address it on my own, so.
Okay,
I just don't want to do anything I'm not supposed to do.
Sure.
That's why I'm,
you can, yeah,
yeah.
Paul?
So, yeah, based on the paper road, right? Who actually owns that paper road?
he owns that side of it, and the Campbells own the other side. That's the 20
So
feet.
you have actually a deed to that road?
Deed that shows that we have the rights to that road.
Rights or ownership? No, then I don't agree with you, Mr. Matrosi.
So it was a private road.
Yeah.
And when you own the land on either side, is the Campbells own one side, Mr. Rossi owns the other, you own to the center line. Your rights go to the center, your legal rights and ownership go to the center line of the road.
Technically speaking, the guy that laid it out in 1897 owns the road. Owns the land.
I agree you have rights, but I don't agree you have rights to use it, to do anything with it. Like you can,
So, the history of this property is there was a house there at one time, 48 Burns Avenue, which derived its frontage from that portion of Burns Avenue that we're talking about, so.
can I,
that-
inter-
Go
just
ahead.
if I ask the question as it comes, it's
Sure.
better for me, I apologize. So if there was a house there, then someone owned that outright, correct?
Well,
So it was, then the deed would progress down the line?
if it's a private way, people on both sides of the street own to the center line.
I agree with that.
So 48 Burns Avenue owned to the center line where this is shown right now, which is now owned by Wall Street. So-
Right, but so I'm involved in a piece of property where we have private way.
Yep.
We own to the center line. That does not mean I can put anything on that property. It means I own to the center, I have rights to it, but I can't use it other than to pass over it or maintain it. But I can't,
Can't build a structure on it, is what you're saying.
yeah, and I can't claim, like, so the piece of property I'm referring to, the house was raised and a new house was put up, and we couldn't use that property in any of our, plans to gain extra square footage or anything like that. We could not refer to that, because it's, just like I own to the center, they own to the center, people have rights to it, it's not my property to use.
So we didn't use the square footage in terms of the calculation of the density for the project.
Okay,
So we have now 159,000 square feet. We're allowed one unit for every 10,000 square feet, which would be 15 units for 150,000 square feet. So we did not use the extra land that you're referring to as part of this right-of-way for our zoning calculation for density. The state law, or the statute is clear that anyone who owns or abuts a way, private way, has the right to improve that way with utilities and construct utilities and so on and so forth. So we simply are using that portion of the way as part of our cul-de-sac, which is considered an improvement of the way for travel purposes. So there's no violation, there's no preclusion from us doing that.
So when we do anything like that, we have to get everyone who owns involved. And why is that different in this case?
Well, there's no one else involved.
The Campbells are involved.
You own to the center, they own to the center.
Right, we're not using their portion of their center line. In other words, we've stopped on their portion of the property, on their side of the center line of the roadway, so we're not encroaching on anyone else's property.
I interrupted you, I'm sorry.
No, I'm,
Yeah, so you're only gonna just do the half of the road just to make the cul-de-sac work. You're just gonna pave it.
Yeah, it's gonna be paved as a part of the roadway system.
Do you have anything further, Paul?
no, I'm just still researching here, John.
Okay.
No, I'm nothing right now to comment.
Okay. Excuse me for a moment while I search for my notes.
I think as long as you're not using that square footage for the number of units.
If I was, I'd only need a couple hundred more square feet, and I could put a 16 unit in there. So, really,
And the zoning board of appeals already approved this project.
correct.
As a 64A, yes.
Is this something I can help you find, John?
No, I thought I'd made
Steve?
some notes. I'm just looking for, I'm sorry to delay you. Really not, okay. The other issue I have is with the closeness of several of the units to the neighboring lots. Those being units 1, 7,
So-
13, 14, and 15, possibly not 13. As a multifamily development, there are provisions for a 50-foot buffer between the multifamily development and single-family housing.
But it's not a multifamily development.
How many units are there? It's multifamily.
I think it has to be 3 units in a single building though, if I understand that. 3.
Is that,
That's a-
excuse me, but is
Go ahead.
that part of the site plan review process, or is that part of the?
Meeting all the requirements of the zoning
Well-
dimensional requirements, yes.
I understand, but once a special permit has been issued, we're essentially in compliance with everything that was granted to us.
This is not a 40B.
Excuse
Zoning does not
excuse me?
override,
the
zoning does
zoning-
not override planning.
But
in
the
this
zoning board of
case.
appeals approved the usage.
They have a special permit
Yes, they
on the
applied the
property.
special permit, yes.
They've already made a finding that the project
fits
is
in.
in compliance, so I'm not quite sure where it falls under site plan review, though.
Use table. Multifamily units. 3 or more units, more than 3 units require a 50-foot buffer. And Unit 7 is rather close to the Campbell land, Unit 1 is close to the,
So, Mr. Vice Chair, I wonder if we should
Mockville,
call
yes?
upon our building commissioner to speak to that.
who
because
can
he would
speak
be
to
the
it?
expert.
I'm willing to listen, sure. And the other one is 2 of the lots on Union Street.
Jim Crowley, Building Commissioner. So this falls under, the application is filing under 6C4, which is in GR, through, the use comes through the Board of Appeals through a special permit, which he already has existing, which is in harmony with the, again, it goes on the characteristics of harmony with the neighbourhood, driveways, buildings, placement, setbacks, volume. The only trigger that takes you back into section 12B, or sorry, 5B, my apologies, for a minimum lot size is under section 5B134Is, and that is on the setbacks, or not on setback, my apologies, is on the amount of principal dwellings you can have per 1,000 square feet. That is the only trigger it takes back. The 50-foot buffer does not apply to this because this is not multi-family. This is single family. So our definition of multi-family dwelling is a building containing 4 or more dwelling units. That's our definition. This is not a building containing 4 or more dwelling units. It falls under dwelling, single-family home, a detached building containing 1 dwelling unit. So we have 15 single-family homes, not multi-family. It is multiple single families, but it's not a multi-family. Our definition for multi-family is a building containing 4 or more dwelling units. And 6C4, which the application is filing under, the only caveat that puts it back into our table under section 5 is 5B134, and that caveat is, and it states, if more than 1 principal dwelling on a lot, which we do, we have 15 of them, there shall be a minimum of 10,000 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit, regardless of how many buildings are on the lot or as many units on the lot in that building. So that's the only criteria that's required. It's 150,000 square feet. I believe they mentioned already they have 157, so to meet the zoning, and the use has been approved. So the use has been approved. We're here for site plan, not the use.
So typical dimensional requirement for a GR lot is 15,000, I believe, correct?
So for GR, the first house requires 15,000. Second house for a 2-family or second house required 20,000. After 20,000 for an additional building or an additional unit requires 10,000 square feet. So if you add,
Yeah,
again, if we have a unit of say 10 units, and you want to put another unit on top, you require 10,000 square foot extra land. If you have a building standalone with 10 units and you want to put a single family home in that space, you need 10,000 square feet for that single family home, and it is allowed in GR through a special permit through the zoning board.
And that's already been granted.
Yeah.
Yes, zoning's already granted the 64A, yeah. One other item that has come to my attention, 64A is multiple units on 1 lot. Now, several years back, Mr. Petrosi came before us for an A&R to combine 3 of his properties into 1 lot. I don't remember the exact date, but you were combining the 2 Burns Ave lots and the one that goes out to Union. You did an A&R to combine those into 1.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Well, we did an A&R plan. I don't know if it was combining them or not, but we did an
Okay,
A&R
well,
plan.
per the plan, do that. The issue is the Brook Ave lot is not, at least according to the assessors, in common ownership yet.
Oh, I
Have
own-
you already
I
purchased?
I own all 4. yeah,
Okay,
All 5.
but it is still listed as a separate lot. I
Excuse
believe
me?
you need to do another A&R to include that with the other properties so that you're following the correct idea. 64 acres, multiple units on one lot. So you need to have one lot, not two lots.
Well, perhaps when we get to the point when we're ready to convey units, we'll probably have a common one-lot scheme with, because they will be individual condominium homes, so they'll all have to be designated on the lot. So it will be one lot at that point.
Comments, someone from the audience? Mr. Conroy?
Jack Conroy, 3840 Burns in a butter. Go back to this road that we seem to be dealing with, okay? I'll just start with something real quick. If in fact he controlled it and everything else, then he would have went through Burns Ave to construct this. But he didn't, because he knew he couldn't. So he had to abandon those plans and go buy the house on Brook Street and come in the other end. It's not a real financial gain in my opinion, okay? Now, as these plans have morphed, and they have morphed, just so you understand, on this derelict fee interest to the center line, paper streets and so on, it's very simple that I own in front of my house to the center line, the Campbells own to their center line, okay? But what is very clear in Mass General Law is you can improve it, meaning you improve the whole road. So if I wanted to make my road in front of the Campbell's house up to standard, I can do that at my own expense. The Campbells can't say anything because I'm bringing the road up to where it should be. You don't need anybody's permission, but you gotta do the whole road. That's the big key here. You just can't do half of it. And also, what seems to be missing is, it's Mass state law. I know the lawyer behind me is gonna tell me I'm wrong, but it says very simple that, that the state legislature passed laws that say undeeded private way is owned to the center line by the abutters, but cannot be altered to prevent its use for roadway purposes. He's altering the street. He's taking his piece. Can't do that. So if in fact this is a paper street, which I've yet to see anything, if I heard Mr. Petrosi indicate there's something from survey in 1894, it would be nice if he presented that. But the way I am, just like Reagan, trust but verify. So give us some verification. But it's very clear, you can't pick out what you want to do. Like my house at 3840, I can't go to the middle of the street and just decide. If you think of it like that, what's to stop me from putting a deck on my half of the road? It doesn't say that. What happens if I wanted to put grass there? It's no longer a road. I can't do anything. What the state says, because we had so many paper streets and it was a big financial burden for towns, is you own to the middle, you own to the middle, you gotta keep care of it. If you want a nice road, then you gotta pay for it. And they have to go through the planning board process. If in fact this was true, he would have done it by now. Now, so, therefore, he shouldn't be using it. Now, the other curious thing is, why aren't you counting that? He puts it like he owns it. I don't see anything in here that says he does own it, but I do have something from the Campbells, okay? And this was done, I think you guys have a copy of it, but it was from their land surveyor. And what you'll see is the Campbells own that center line piece, but it's not a road. That was bought. That was bought by the Campbells, or the father, in 1952 by a guy who owned all the property in McDonald. So that's a piece of property. That is not a paper street. So to say that's paper street all the way there, it isn't. They have a deed for this, they own it. So therefore, he shouldn't be using it. But it still comes back to this. We can sit here and, you know, Mr. Petrosi and I can go back. We've been doing this a lot of years. If you just moved it back. But why doesn't he want to move it back? you lose a lot. So, but he's presenting something in front of this board without proving that he owns anything. So if he can prove, based upon state law, that he can't use what he wants to do, which is very simple, he can't alter that road, but it's not a road, because in fact the Campbells own that piece, so you don't have a 20-foot right-of-way anymore. But if he can prove that he owns that long piece, the 20-foot by 100, then he's got a right to use it. I ain't got an issue with it.
There's a little
But at least prove it. Don't sit here and say, I'm using it, and take my word for it.
Thank you.
And I've heard many, many times, I don't have to prove nothing to the board. Let's go to the application process. It says right in the application, name of all owners and applicants. I see two names. Well, now it's only one, Lou's. But before, you had the guy, Brian Regan, I think, well, whoever his name was. So you had two names on it. But there's only one name on it. But you get 5 pieces of property. Whose is it? All you gotta do is have him move it back off that right-of-way. If it is in fact a right-of-way, I don't believe it is, but if he moves it off, then there's the rest of the plan, it's not a problem. But if he doesn't want to move it off, he should, because the Campbells have shown in their deed that they had bought that in 1952, then he should do a title search to find out that he owns that other piece, then he can do what he wants. So right now, based upon what I've researched, he can't use the street for what he wants to do, because it isn't a street. It's 20 feet. And if you look at, let's see, I'll give you an old plan for me. Oh, here's an interesting one. This was where I live, well, at my house, 34, 36, 38, 40, done by the planning board in 1967. If you could, I'll leave this, but you can see there's nothing past here. It just stops.
The road stops.
Yeah, so right back then, it stopped. Now,
There's a house there, though.
the other interesting thing, so what? He didn't have frontage. I knew he didn't have frontage. Oh, look, I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
Wait your time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll give you time. I'll give you
I
time.
apologize. I gotta go though pretty soon.
What time? So anyway, what you have there is it shows, this was just a piece of property owned by somebody way back. And you can see that it says taking 1934, 505 feet. Supposedly the town has it. But there's no record that has been produced to show that it was a right-of-way. Now, I will say, if he comes back and shows that it should have been like that, prior to the Campbells buying it, they may have an issue, but I don't think there is an issue. So right now, if he says it's a paper street, he can't do what he wants because you can't disturb a paper street. It has to stay a street, and he's using it, okay? If he wants to say, no, okay, I own that piece of property, then fine. Produce a deed that says he owns it. Very simple. You just can't walk in and say, like my neighbor coming up and say, well, I'm gonna use your land, I put you on it. No. Everybody within the confines of that plan has to be listed, it has to be controlled by the owner applicant, and that's all I'm saying. This isn't hard. Simplest way, move it back. But we know, I'm not being a real betting man, but I guess I'll just leave you with that, because I know that ain't gonna happen. But you got the Campbell's deed, shows in the middle, you have the rule that says state law, you can only keep it as a road. Matter of fact, this board had something a couple weeks ago up off of High Street, a road. You can't do anything with it. I can't put a volleyball net in front of my house. All right? I can't park cars in the middle of the street saying it's my driveway, because it's a road. So he's trying to alter his road to his thing. But that's the choice. So, and in regards to the zoning board, what I heard, zoning board only gave a special permit based upon the number of units. They don't get into the other stuff. They're not. It's only a special permit to make sure it's in harmony. They don't go through every square foot or anything. That's not their job. So the planning board's job is the site plan. So I'm all set.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Ms. Campbell? Please identify yourself for the record.
Kathy Campbell, 3135 Burns Avenue. Good evening. I just, we've been at this for 8 years now, maybe more. Just a clarification, I just feel obligated to say that on page 2, existing conditions, where they've listed Burns Ave Private Way A and B, and they've listed Clarence Campbell, the existing conditions really should be exactly what our survey says, which is map 20, block 139, which is the deed 3109, page 110 through 112. So the existing conditions never said private way. I know we've asked, and I've asked that the layouts and everything continuing to be labeled properly with the Campbell's property denoted, so that we don't have a final set of plans when this project goes through filed without that identified. I know we've had this conversation several times. I would appreciate if Mr. Petrosi and GLM would label that on the layout as well as all the other pages. It doesn't make any sense to me that one page has it half labeled right and the other pages don't have it labeled at all. And then I think, if I may, roll to, with the 15 units, I'm assuming that the 40B permit that had 20 units with all the conditions would not be in play, or it would be up to Mr. Petrosi to decide what he's going to build, whether he's going to build the 40B or whether he's going to build the 15 units. And I think my question for here tonight is, in the 40B, there were conditions of screening, there was conditions of a fence sort of coming down perpendicular to Burns Avenue. There was comments at the last meeting here about some sort of a landscaping plan. We talked about, putting up something in the cul-de-sac so that the people coming down the cul-de-sac, the lights aren't shining into, our property as well as the condominiums. But I think the bigger issue for us, at least specifically, and maybe the residents on Burns Avenue in Jack's property, it's going to be pretty easy for someone to drive down the cul-de-sac if nothing's there. It's a short jaunt between that cul-de-sac and Burns Avenue, and I'm pretty sure that vehicles and people are just going to be walking from the end of that cul-de-sac over that piece of property and accessing, Burns Avenue. And I was hoping that this board could ask, or maybe I should ask, who is the right authority to talk about what needs to be provided in this application for landscaping and screening. And maybe landscaping, screening, privacy. I know I asked at the last meeting if they would please put up a fence on their side of that 20 by 100 where the cul-de-sac is. And I would be appreciative of if that could be still a consideration. I'm worried that there's going to be traffic, vehicular and or people just, coming down Burns Avenue. I think maybe those are my questions.
Okay. While you're here, a question for you. As you are probably about the closest house to this project, what is your feeling on how far the units are set back from your property?
I have to be really honest. I mean, we are abutting the construction that's currently going on, and I think I'm a little bit visually impaired. Like I'm not really clear in my mind exactly where all the houses are going to be. I've tried to sort of visualize, there's one that's particularly close to our property that's way in the woods, but that is, that's significantly away from, like where my front door is. I think the property, the cul-de-sac is probably the closest to our property. And then probably the houses that are perpendicular to Burns Avenue.
Have you seen the landscaping plan?
I have not seen the
It'd be good to
landscaping.
look at it. Actually, we'd love to get your feedback on whether you think this is
I actually
sufficient.
didn't even know there was one, so I'm,
Here's the landscaping plan.
okay.
And it would be good to get your feedback, 'cause I think, certainly, doing screening and landscaping would be, be something that we can help with maybe.
Was this in this, was this in the packet?
In our packet.
Oh, okay, so I had no idea that a landscaping plan had been provided.
And it does call for a privacy fence on the, I'm not sure if that's
Where?
gonna meet your need, but right here is a privacy fence here.
Oh, that's over that side, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was
So I'm
mentioned.
not sure if that,
That's along Jack's property.
yeah,
Could,
so it may not be.
may I approach for a moment?
Sure.
Is that a problem? If you have
Looking at this,
Yes, so, this part of the, like, this is where our property is right here, the
Half
little
of that
piece.
is their
Half of that
property,
is
yeah.
us. So if there's a privacy fence here, it probably isn't going to be hard to suspect that someone's gonna just come down and just shoot right out here and go down Burns Avenue. This is all lawn, this is our lawn right here. But if there's nothing here, it's, it's, literally they could leave the cul-de-sac and go right down
Yeah.
Burns Avenue. So I was
That's
hoping,
drawn incorrectly there too, that they should have the line come out here and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, it looks like there's a privacy fence here. I was hoping that they would, I think the thought was, we were hoping that they would just continue it and come right down.
That may be hard to do, because that would be on the right of way.
There is no right of way.
Their cul-de-sac is on the right of way.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they can build the cul-de-sac, because that's just
No,
paving.
they can't actually. Because like Jack said, they can't pick and choose how much of the right of way they're
That's an
including.
interesting dilemma.
Huh?
That's an interesting dilemma, the fence. Your point
You're
is
right,
the grading
yeah.
is flat there, but she's absolutely right, in the finished condition.
Right.
There will be
Yeah.
virtually
They-
nothing
they-
to stop
right.
you from going to the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac
that would,
on
that's good,
Burns
that would
Ave.
be a problem.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so whether, there's got to be something that stops people and traffic,
Yeah.
because people, like I said, people will just go right, like, there's a sign there now that says no construction access, but all of that fencing.
But that'll
will go.
change once it's to
Right.
people living
Yeah,
there, yeah.
and so this half, over here.
That should be identified
This
even
is,
on that
this is
plan, yeah.
the, this is
That's your
the-
property.
Yeah, this is the property that Jack just showed you,
And
and
you
then.
own, and you own that.
That is in our
They own
deed.
that, yeah.
Yes, and it goes back to 18-something, the same mets and bounds of the deed.
Yeah.
But there, we were hoping to have some sort of a fence that would, prevent people from walking through and driving through.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna be a problem.
Can you clarify for me, and maybe Mr. Petrosi can weigh in also? So, and this goes way back to when you were before us years back.
Yep.
Okay? The stamped plan.
Yes.
That shows you own.
Yes.
So is that land being claimed as common land, or is your land being used in this plan?
In the current plan in front of the board, it is not.
Okay.
When it was originally started,
Yes.
it was.
Okay.
Yes, so today, in the plan here and in the 40B, that it was 40 by 100, we own 20 by 100, and the other 20 by 100 is what everybody is talking about, that is up for grabs. So our land, that 20 by 100, in this plan is not being encroached on
Okay.
today.
Now, who did you buy the land from? Who owned that?
So my father-in-law bought the land in 52 from, I think his name was McDonald. And then I had that goes back to like 1852.
Right.
And it's the same exact.
These two pieces here
Yes.
were all one.
Yeah.
And they actually owned
Yes.
land over here too,
And then we
which was
sold that,
sold out.
right.
yeah.
And he must have been the one that laid out the street?
No,
That goes back further than that.
that goes way back.
That goes back to about 1953.
Yeah.
when the street was laid out.
But he must have owned, if he sold the land, and it was part of the
No,
street.
this,
No.
the town or the state took the land to build
Afterwards.
Burns Ave.
For Burns Ave.
They took that land from the abutters.
Oh, okay.
Part of it.
Yeah, part of it. They took
Part
part of
Did
the
they-
land.
Did they
They
take the
took,
part? You own?
they took a piece of the land to create a 40-foot
They-
wide.
Yeah, they took from here down,
Yeah.
where it says
Right.
end of Limit Way, right?
Yeah.
And then we own that.
And then this was just
I believe it
about,
was 40 to start with,
yeah.
It was 40.
but they acquired public rights in a portion of it, but not all of it.
Right, they
So
didn't
in other
go,
words, it
they
didn't
didn't
go all the way to the
acquire the
end.
public rights all the way to what they took.
Right.
Right.
No, they didn't acquire public rights all the way to the end.
To
of
the very
property.
end, between two, correct, correct.
But if you were able to buy the land, it was not at that point a public, a paper street.
There was no road.
There was no public
There was no
street,
road
there's
there.
never been a paper street.
Right.
There's been reference to streets, but there's no proof, there's not on any plan. Well, I'm wrong, they're on a plan, but they're on bad plans. Plans drawn by landscape architects who tried to take a shortcut and screwed up. Okay,
Yeah, so I think, again,
something
I didn't.
similar
I'll-
to the
I-
privacy fence along
Yeah.
Campbell, the Conroy land,
Right.
to prevent lights shining in.
Yeah,
it
and I
would
think
be
more importantly, the cars and/or people.
shining in this direction, kind of,
Right.
this way, yeah. So it wouldn't have to necessarily be over here, it would be more or less just along this side here, kind of.
Yeah, but I think, again, because this is grass,
Yeah,
right? So if kids are walking down here and they're going to go to school, they're gonna walk right out of the cul-de-sac on our property and walk right down Burns Avenue. And that just doesn't feel so good to
No.
us, but
okay.
if there's something that can be done to
We will-
mitigate the traffic from driving
True.
over our property and mitigate the people walking through there, that's what I'm asking. Are these plans on the planning board website?
No.
Kate,
No?
do you know if the landscape plan was on the website?
Okay.
No, that was added.
It's in, you can give her that if you want.
That's okay, I can
I don't really need-
I can come down.
Yeah.
Okay, come in, Kathy.
Thank you.
I don't have it.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
All right, thank you.
You can take that one. Take that one,
Oh, no, that's okay, I didn't take one.
you know.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I can just get a small. Thank you.
Before Mr. Conway comes back, anyone else from the audience wanna? Let everyone have a chance.
Steve Barrows, 189 Union Street. I'd just like to request that the board require Wall Street Development to do a traffic study on Union Street prior to approving the site plan. He did do one previously when it was going to come out from Burns Ave, but however, that's changed. And there's a lot of concerns about safety on Union Street, and a bunch of abutters would certainly appreciate you requiring him to perform a traffic study prior to any approval.
Was one done, Carl?
There was one.
Yeah, I thought.
When? 6 years ago?
No, I don't think it's.
No,
done.
no, there is one, well, it
Pending?
was on, after it was switched to coming off of Brook Lane. Kimley Horn did it. They're the company that did the traffic study.
Okay. Where can we find the results of that study?
I have it,
You have it?
I do.
Oh, cool.
I believe I have it in digital format. If not, I believe I can get it.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll talk to you
I
about
thought I
that
saw
then.
it in the package.
All right, thank you.
Okay, yeah, because it does make a difference. Mr. Conroy?
I'll drive you. Back to what Mr. Barrows said. I don't care what he did for the 40B. Part of the requirements of site plan, that's supposed to be in here, and he didn't put it. So until he's such time, that doesn't exist, the traffic study. It was part of this
It
package?
is part of the
Well,
package.
we have that traffic study. Then how come it wasn't, we didn't know about it?
No, it is
Okay,
in,
all right. Now,
yeah.
here's a question, whoever can answer it. All right? A lot of stuff going on in that lot. And I was the one who crafted way back, no tree cutting or any work until you have an approval. Well, on the previous building inspector, him and I didn't get along, and he just went like this, no, I'm not gonna stop him. So he treated the whole lot, knocked the house down. Now we're in there digging, all right? You don't have an approval from you guys. What is he digging under?
Mr. Petrosi?
40B? Did he pull a permit yet?
He doesn't have to under comprehensive permit, doesn't start doing site work without, for building permits, a different requirement.
I always thought, has he submitted everything he's supposed to?
With the work that he's doing out there.
No, has he submitted everything on his 40B that he's supposed to?
To do the work out.
Not the work, the whole thing.
Doesn't have to, no, he hasn't to do that.
Oh, so we can do it in one step at a time. So basically what you got out there is he's doing this per his other plan. So
Yeah.
what are you guys approving? That's, to me, it's like, you have the plan over here that was approved as a 40B. If they can do it, I don't have any, right? But that was 20 units, this is 15. What, we got a shell game going on? I don't understand. So if he's doing the 40B, why is he even here in the first place? He's got approval and he's going ahead with it. That's all.
Okay. Squally, sure.
Yeah, so to speak to Ms. Conroy's question, he's out there under the 40B, which he has. He's applying for 40A project, which he's allowed to do. It's a weird, call it a shell game, probably, but he's allowed to do that. He could apply for a single family home on the lot and then decided to apply for the 15 units now, concentrate on the single family home and then decide, okay, I got money, I won the lottery, I'm going to build 15 units. He can change his process. So right now, he is under the 40B. Originally, when this started, I believe, and Mr. Trojan can speak to this, he was cited with a cease and desist under my predecessor, and that was taken away, and Town Council, Mr. Pucci, who's under 40B, said it was revoked and he's allowed to do the site work. So he's moving under the 40B, he's applying for a 40A. He's allowed to do it. Seems weird, but he's allowed to do it.
He's applying for what, a 40A?
So this is under, this 15 falls under 40A zoning.
Oh, okay, 40.
So what he's working on now is the 40B, and with 40B, there's two criteria. The first criteria to do land work, you have to meet some criteria, and then to get building permits from the building department, you have to meet another set of criteria. So it's very similar to, right now we have a 40 going on Summer Street in the Foxborough line, Walpole line. They met all the criteria for site work, they've done the site work. Now they're meeting the criteria for the building permits, they're building over there. So
Okay.
as long as he meets the
So
criteria.
he's met the requirements for site work, but not for building yet.
Yeah, so he can do site work under the 40B. He cannot start any building without the criteria for the 40B.
Now, is he still required to stay away from like the water resource areas and everything like that, right?
Yeah, that's under the conditions, the comprehensive permit under 40B that the conservation would have given him.
Okay.
I believe, I think, they have another conditions for the 15 units on that as well, on the noose, if he decides. So
Okay.
he's basically has a choice to go which way he wants, unfortunately. It's his choice. That answers.
No, I understand that. He can apply for what he wants.
Oh.
He's out there digging. What's he digging? That's what I mean. It ain't the same. 15 units and then 20 units aren't the same. That's all I'm saying, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like. So, no, there's no guys, Lou. I'm still up here. But my point is, he's asking you for this, but he's doing his site work under another plan. So I don't know how that works. That's all.
It's a question we may need to raise with town council then. It's a question we may need to raise with town council.
Or someone's gotta go out there and figure all that out. But it just seems odd. I wanted to figure out this, okay, he can do his
Yes,
site
right.
work, but
He's
what Jim
he's
was
doing
saying.
this,
He
but
can
he's
do
got
that.
this, yeah, I agree
So
that
there's no-
he's balancing two things, but yeah.
yeah, legally he can apply for anything. I don't disagree, but he's out there digging. So my point is, if he's here to get this approved, what's he digging to? That's
Well,
the question.
he'll do the 40B.
Not necessarily, Phil.
No,
Because no one's out there checking to make sure he's doing exactly right down to this square foot.
But that's the town engineer would have to approve.
No, it's not the town engineer's responsibility to make sure he's doing to watch all that. He's not the inspector. Anyway, I just wanted that cleared up. So he's out there on the 40B. Okay.
Okay.
Only if you promise not to come back. So let me just try and clarify this. So the infrastructure for both projects is the same. It's the same roadway,
Similar, yeah.
the same utilities, sewer, water, the same off-site improvements are the same. Everything related to the road work, network, and the utilities is identical for both projects. We did receive a special permit for 15 units under a conventional zoning. Not, we were asked to do it. And the board saw that it was in everyone's best interest that we did it. The only thing that's remaining to be done is the site plan approval process. We went back to the Conservation Commission to obtain approvals under the local bylaws, the local wetland bylaw, the land disturbance bylaw. We had already in our possession a superseding order from DEP that would have allowed us to do either project. So we did duplicate all the required permits that we would have to have done if this were the original project. But essentially, it just became, the only difference between this project and the 40B is it's 5 less units, 5 less homes. We have, the zoning board approved a comprehensive permit for a 20-lot subdivision on the property. That approval is still in place. When this process is completed, then we'll make a decision on whether or not to
Direction.
abandon that permit, or depending on what these conditions end up being, we'll make that decision whether or not to pursue the 40B permit or continue along this line here. But, you know, we're as Mrs. Campbell has said, this has been a long process. We have done our best to meet everybody's expectations and concerns, but it just never seems to end here. So I'm happy to provide copies of the title search that we have in our possession that's been done by our legal professionals, document what we feel is our,
As it seems,
with the right-of-way. In fact, Mr. O'Leary, you came to the planning board, the zoning board meeting with the deed in your hands, showing that we had ownership or rights along that roadway. So I'm really surprised by your disbelief that we now have to prove that point when you've already proved it once before in front of the zoning board, so.
because
I'm
my
happy to
proof
do it
doesn't
again.
help, unfortunately.
If the board wants a condition, it's the site plan on us providing a title report for the building commissioner to review, we're happy to do it. It's been a long time. When Mr. Conroy speaks of whether or not we could have done it or would have done it, you know, these are all business decisions that we make. We chose to buy another piece of property rather than fight Mr. Conroy further in court. We don't know who would have won that battle. We still don't know. It's still pending, actually. So, but we made a business decision to satisfy a bunch of concerns, and we bought a home on Brook Lane so that the traffic would not be a through street. Helped out the people on Burns Avenue to eliminate traffic on their side of the project. We limited access for construction vehicles so that no construction vehicles will go down their roadway. And, you know, so we've done, I think, everything that they've asked us to do. And I'm just simply, I'm in a amazement as to what these things keep coming up at the same time. And you know, Mr. O'Leary, you have the papers in your possession, so I'm happy to provide them again. But if you go back to the meetings, you'll see you holding up the deed and testifying that what we represented was accurate. So, in any case, thank you for your time. I have to run. I mean, I don't know what the board wants to do, but.
Mr. Duchesne, Pat, regarding the memo you provided, is there something Mr. Petrosi needs to provide for us under that, or is that just a separate issue that must be addressed with the town?
I will need to check one thing with that memo. Mr. President did remind me that the 40B that was done as a subdivision. So I'll probably need to kind of revisit that with town council to see if my memo is still applicable.
Okay.
Could you actually probably should come up to the microphone? I couldn't hear.
Oh. Could you repeat that, please, Pat? Thank you.
Just so everybody could hear it. Thank you.
I'll need to revisit that with town council to make sure my memo is still applicable. So one thing that I forgot about, that 20-unit project was actually done as a subdivision, which would have froze the zoning. That's on me for not catching that. So I will just need to check that with town council to see if it's applicable. If it's not, then my memo is not relevant for this project.
Thank you.
And the enforcement would be at the time by the building commissioner when there are thresholds, when they get to a certain number of units, they have to have the affordable units documented before it can go further, right?
Any other comments by the board at this time?
I think having conditions on the landscaping would be
Right.
the thing to do. Whether there can be a fence in that right away is unclear to me. That would be a.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, if you would entertain a question to the applicant through the chair. From me.
Yes.
Mr. Petrosi or Mr. Truax, in Mrs. Campbell's testimony, she brought up some of the things that were screening and items that were approved in the previous 40B, and a desire to have some sort of thing, whether it be fencing or plantings or whatever it is, to obstruct people from going from the end of the cul-de-sac to Burns Ave. Given that you have analyzed the condition of the private way, do you think you could erect fencing over what you're claiming to be your portion of the private way, or block that with screening or some other way to prevent people from going from the cul-de-sac over to Burns Ave to satisfy those concerns?
We're not going to do that. We did, if you look back at some of the prior landscaping plans that we prepared and filed with the zoning board, we did have, at the end of the cul-de-sac, a row of arborvitaes for screening, and we were told that they didn't want them. Now, I could be mistaken, but I thought that was, and that's why we took them off the plan. But we have no problems planting at the end of the cul-de-sac that abuts the Campbell's property, some vegetation. I hesitate on fencing because, as you know, in plowing and snowing, at the end of a cul-de-sac, snow will tend to, push up against the fence, and that will cause it to get damaged. So we would prefer to stay with some sort of a vegetative buffer. I don't know, is it on that plan now? Do we show anything at the end of the cul-de-sac?
For the benefit of the audience, no, there are a couple of trees there. I don't know exactly, an NS and 3 CP. I believe they're shade trees, but there's no type of.
Yeah, because we like I said, we had our like evergreens in that location. I don't know, and we took them off because we were told that they weren't desirable there. So. I don't remember, it's going back a ways, but if you look through the old plans that we filed with the zoning board, you'll see a colored rendering with the evergreens along the back of the cul-de-sac. As far as entrance onto Burns Avenue, we're not going to encroach on the Campbells' portion of their property. We've agreed with them to leave this part of their portion of the property to themselves. But, Burns Avenue is a public way, so for the 15 or so feet that we're talking about, or whatever number of feet it is, there are rights still available in that portion of the roadway, and we're not gonna block it off.
But you would put dense evergreens back there to,
Well, yeah, if
I think-
that
I think-
abuts the Campbell's property along the back of the cul-de-sac, sure.
I mean, I think something needs to be done to help.
Absolutely, we've always offered that, but I don't want to put a structural fence there because things have a tendency to get damaged when plows and other things and trucks hit them. So I just would prefer it to be a vegetative type of buffer rather than a structural element. And of course, some plantings grow thick and large over time. So I think over long term, it's a better situation than, just putting up a 6-foot privacy fence.
Let me just ask Mrs. Campbell, are you worried about people coming onto your property too?
Well, worried is probably,
Yeah.
worried is probably,
But concerned, in other words,
Yes.
you would prefer,
yes, Kathy Campbell. I wouldn't say, worried is not, I'm not worried, but is it possible? Yes. And I understand that people can leave the multifamily homes that are there, the 15 homes. I understand that they could walk down the cul-de-sac and cut right into Burns Avenue, and they have every right to do that. The cul-de-sac the circle of the cul-de-sac is right, it abuts our grass. So if someone's standing on the cul-de-sac, if there's nothing there, it would be very easy for them to just step on the grass, walk on our property and walk down the street. So I think we're just trying to mitigate that. And
We're in agreement.
I don't think I asked you to remove trees, but I asked you to put trees there on the side of your property.
We can certainly talk about it, but we're in agreement, basically. what I'm
Basically, yeah.
saying. So,
Yeah, I understand.
it's just that I don't want anything structural, because it's not gonna last forever. It's
Sure.
gonna get damaged.
would it be better if it was on Mrs. Campbell's side?
Well, that would be,
No.
she can't,
Right on the
Oh,
property.
right, yeah.
Right on the property.
that's her property, it's
Okay,
her
yeah.
decision how to.
If she wants it on her side of the property, then that's fine too.
Not much there, Rob.
So it's something it sounds like you could work out.
Well, as long as there's something there that says that they're going to be responsible to
Special-
put
yeah.
some
Special
sort of
conditions.
screening around the cul-de-sac on this piece of property that he's already using, then and if a structure is not possible, then, I think we have to sort of see what happens, and if people are in fact encroaching on our land, then we'll have to deal with that.
Can we do something like that?
Yeah, so we can make a special condition.
Westwood or something?
I think you should come back with a revised
Those questions.
If the board would like to word it that it would be
Buffer zone.
something that we work out amicably, whether it's a fence or a vegetation, we're happy to have that into the approval,
I think that was something.
as a condition. But we've been banting this thing, and like I said, we just need to get it down on paper somehow. And
So maybe-
this plan, we took them off. Previous plans, we had it on. And it may be that we had them on your property at the time, perhaps, that we,
Maybe coming
but-
back with a revised plan to show that. or-
Or you can make it a condition, it's up to
This is
the
a new
building
application.
commissioner to
It is,
review.
it's a, it has a
Take
new
it up to
case.
him.
I know this is a new application.
Discretion.
Yeah, because I looked at the old one. The old one was case 2406, this is case 2412, so it is a new case.
No, but he can be the enforcement, he's the enforcement person,
So,
you know what I'm saying? So.
Mr.
that's
Chair,
when you
Yes.
gotta have a comfortable meeting.
I would suggest that they bring, I don't know, I don't want to lead this hearing, but I suspect it will be continued, or then again, maybe not. But I would suggest that a revised plan be submitted for the next hearing.
For what, landscaping?
Yes.
Okay.
Take that pen and mark it up.
John, you get somebody,
Mr. Conroy,
From a procedural, I would advise not to close the hearing and where he wants to give you the deed, Yes,
Right.
because if you do that, that's it. He could give you anything. There's no more hearing. You don't have a right to go to council. I don't have a right to see it. So that should be presented before the hearing is closed, so that the whole public, with myself, sees what he got.
Yeah.
If you do it now, no, he doesn't, Lou. Don't tell me what, you don't even know who my attorney is, do you? Give me a name, quick. Terry Mason? Terry Mason, huh? He's on MeTV right now. But anyway, my point is, you can't close it, because he could just, here's a piece of paper, and you have no, what do you call it?
I would like to continue to get a few things straightened out, I think.
So you're gonna have it for
But
next time?
I think
Do we
to have
need
order
an
for it, yeah.
extension?
No, you're gonna have to need, as you say.
What's the extension?
Yeah? Where's that
I
been?
mean, well,
To get one
he's
back.
coming on October 17th. His time runs out I just read it, the 25th. I would take an extension.
I wasn't gonna go home half blind. I think I am.
Can we keep the noise down, please, in the audience?
So, I have to run, I'm sorry.
And you
but,
have to run. Where are we through right now?
His extension, he is good through the 25th of October. Our next meeting is the 17th.
Okay.
It is cutting it close if there's something that happens, so if he would just give us an extension into November.
And we'll schedule you for next
Next meeting?
17th, yes.
17th.
October 17th?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful, thank you.
Oh, well, you will have enough time to update a
It's
couple
all,
of
it's all
plans.
available. It's all been submitted to the,
How soon does it have to get into us, though? You have to
14
leave-
days.
14 days.
14 days? Oh,
So that's really
That's
today,
today.
today.
no, it's today.
Oh, it's today.
well, I can give you the title report tomorrow, and I can give you the old site plan, I mean, the landscape plan. The site, as far as the landscape plan, these are things that I think, you know, are you gonna argue over what size tree is gonna go in there and where the tree is gonna be planted, or are you gonna condition it upon something
Well, I'm looking at
mutually agreeable with,
landscape plan now, and the borders aren't correct on it, for instance.
excuse me?
The borders are not correct on it.
What's not correct?
That can be handled as a condition.
That's something, it's a quick fix, I'm sure, but it's not correct at the end here.
I think that-
Yeah.
some of these things are conditional type things that can be conditioned.
But we
Other
would like
things
to
that, if you
see,
want to see the title report, happy to do it. If Kyle wants to see another landscape
landscape
plan.
plan just to show what your proposal is for the end of the
I do.
cul-de-sac.
I mean, this,
I don't think it's
Well, we
anything
can't go to the
I
next
mean, this
meeting.
landscape plan has been in play for several months.
Mr. Petrosi, could I respectfully ask that you go to November 7th instead, because that will give me time to get my question panned out about voting?
Sure, why not?
Just, I think I don't want you to come to the next meeting and not have us push you off again. Do you know what I mean? So I think it will just give us all time to get everything done if you go to November 7th.
Or not to, but I mean, if that's how you're gonna do it.
Well, it's up to you. I'm just,
What is your concern?
I did
that-
not vote. I was not present when this was voted, and I understand this is a new application, but I just want to make 100% sure that there's no issue with me voting.
Yeah, I don't-
Unless you
That's
want
the
me to
issue because you
abstain, I can
raised
abstain.
The
but-
issue of only 3 board members last time, so I think you want to be sure that we have all
But
4.
it's a new application, so I don't really think that it's,
I
don't
think
think
you're
it's in play.
probably right, but I just want to get it confirmed.
You folks are in charge. I'll have the road paved by that time.
No, we'll continue to November, extension to the end of November to make it easy,
November 30th.
if you would.
I'll extend till November 10th.
When's the next meeting, 1st of November?
November 7th.
7.
7th.
That's
Okay.
no good, November 10th.
I'll make a motion that we extend them.
I suppose legally that's all we need, it's not convenient.
November
but-
10th is a Sunday.
11th.
Okay, so Phil makes
Is that
a
a
motion.
holiday?
Huh?
It's a holiday.
Monday's
Well-
a holiday, 11th?
The 11th,
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
12th, okay.
Go to 12th.
Could you make your motion again?
I'll make a
Ben?
motion that we extend them till November 12th.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Can I
All
vote on
approved,
that?
all in favor?
You second.
Aye.
So extended to November 12th and set up for, what do we have on the 12th,
Nothing.
the 7th?
Nothing. 7:10.
7:10 then, on the November 7th.
So am I gonna be behind zoning articles and master plan
I
talk
hope
again?
not. Seven.
Hey, do you ask that, or do I ask that? Do you want me to send you an email telling you what I
Yeah,
said?
I'll just forward it to them. Good night.
I said,
I will. I certainly will. Thank you.
sorry, I'm gonna reach out.
Rob? Where's Steve? I don't know if this plan here, for instance, this is showing line over here.
Yeah, I
Should be back
saw
over
that.
here or something.
That's not mine.
easy
That's
to-
someone else.
Oh, someone else did it.
On my letterhead, yeah, we just brought it in.
That should be an easy fix, whatever.
We'll
when you do
fix it
the
and
other
get
thing.
some arborvitae's there. We'll put a planting thing. I think we had them there before. I don't know why they came out. We did have them there once.
I want to know who's in charge.
Who's what?
I said, I want to know who's in
Did
charge.
you talk to everything?
Christ. I've never seen anything like this.
We have a motion to adjourn, we have a second.
Second.
Adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.